Hi everybody, doing a little stripping of this 1965 Gibson Firebird non-reverse stock vintage old instrument. And the way I'm doing this is to use lacquer thinner in a squirt bottle, just these old rags that are saturated and just sitting on top of this lacquer for some time. Lacquer thinner is what was originally put in the lacquer to when it was sprayed on, so why not use it to dissolve it? And you could just sand this whole finish off, but that takes the risk of removing quite a bit of wood, and on an instrument like this, I want to remove minimal amount of wood, and so I'm just letting this soak like this, and then as I let it soak, it begins to peel up, and you'll see kind of how as it peels up, that it wrinkles, it begins to lift the finish off like this. Now this only works on nitrocellulose lacquer or similar acrylic lacquers and things like that. It won't work on polyurethane or any of the acrylic urethanes and things like that today. Those take something else, but this works for this. And so it's a process. You let it lift, and then I'm just lightly removing as much as possible, just scraping. It's a mess, there's no way to get around it. And then after I've kind of removed as much as possible there, then I will go ahead and eventually start scrubbing it with a piece of cloth where this is left, and just removing anything that's loose from that. So just kind of some thoughts of how this works. A little bit slow, tedious, but it's enjoyable to see the beauty of the wood come out from underneath of this amazing old instrument as you do the process. And just a thought of how to strip your older instruments with care. That's enough for the day. And something to be really cautious about if you're stripping finish like this lacquer, this little nitro lacquer with lacquer finish, or acetone actually works equally as well, if not even better. But something to be cautious about is if it has binding on it around the fretboard, around the edge, you really want to be cautious, because the lacquer thinner and acetone will actually eat that binding up and melt it, and because those old bindings are actually acetate binding, and so you have to be really cautious when doing that. So something to keep in mind as you take on a project like this, of how to avoid really messing up something that you didn't count on in the process. But you can see right now from this, I'll just do a little scrubbing, and you can see as I go the paint finish kind of starts to come off of it after I've scraped anything that's loose off. And usually I'll have to go over this again and keep on wiping at it until it's fully clean. It'll also leave some in the pores that will have to be dealt with, some of the color, because this is an open pore wood, mahogany in particular, and that's just one of those challenges that you have to deal with. I will say eventually there will have to be some sanding on this. So hope that's helpful to somebody. And I would even add to this that not only was he unable to validate that it was an original Gibson, when you've got thick paint like this one had on it, one of the things he wasn't able to validate was the neck had not been broken at some time. And it's only by removing that finish that I was able to really determine, no, the neck has never been broken. These are really prone to breaking, as many Gibsons are. This one, though, if you look at the profile through this area, you can easily see how thin it is, and so he had no way of knowing that the neck had not been previously broken with the thick paint that was on it. So able to validate it had not been, which is outstanding.